In the previous lecture, you have learned class declaration and class implementation. In this part of the data structure course related to object classes, we will cover object declaration, constructor for a class, and alternative constructors. Now we are going to consider another example. We are going to declare the class rectangle. This is similar to the class circle. However, instead of a single data member, which was reduced for the circle, here we have length and width. The private data members are length and width. And here we have double slash. It means that until the end of the line, whatever written here is comment, explanation. Note, length and width are data members of the abstract data type. By placing data members in private part, we ensure that only defined methods may change them. Outside of the methods, users are not able to see what are the private members. And as the public part, we have the constructor. We have floating number L. The default value is provided as 0, and floating variable W, the default value is set to 0. This is the constructor. Note that the constructor has the same name as the class. The name of the class is rectangle, and also the name of the method is rectangle for the constructor. We need some methods to retrieve and modify private data. Notice that length and width are private, and outside of the class we are not able to access them. If they are needed, we may declare the methods getLength and putLength. This is to read the value of length, and this is to update the value of the length. And similarly, getWidth and putWidth may be defined. And for the getLength, because we are reading the value of the length, a floating value will be returned from the method. And because the internal data, either length or width, will not be changed, because of that, this is a constant method. Note that constant written here indicates that the method is constant. Therefore, no class data item may be modified. That is, getLength does not change the state of the rectangle object. And we have method putLength. Here we have an argument L, which is a floating value, and whatever provided here is going to be set as the value of the length. There is no return value. The other method is getWidth. There is no input, and whatever the value of width is read, and it is returned from the method. Again, the data member is not going to be updated. Because of that, this is a constant method. And similarly, we have putWidth. The input is a floating variable W. This value is going to be set as the value of the width because the internal data is changing. This is not a constant method. And there is no return value, only internal data member updated. We have two methods for the calculation of the perimeter. Here no input is needed because the length and width of the object is already inside the data members, and it will calculate the perimeter. It will return that value. No data member is going to be updated. This is a constant method. And similarly, the area, there is no input. The area is calculated, and it's a constant method. It will return whatever calculated as the area. It's the floating value. So this is the end of the class declaration. This should be implemented, and you can do it as an exercise. For the object declaration, we have class name and then the name of the object, and the parameters are provided. by the declaration, object declaration, an instance of the class is created. For example, here an object whose name is room is declared. So there is a call to the constructor of the rectangle class, and the parameters are 12 and 10. These are the length and width, L and W provided as the arguments. And another object T is declared here, and notice that no argument is provided. Omitting parameters means using default values, that is, L is set to 0 and W is set to 0. Remember that in the declaration of the constructor, here the default value for L and W were set as 0. Another object declaration, the name of the object is square. It is of type rectangle, and we have 10 and 10 as the parameters L and W. And then there is another declaration, yard, as the initial value. It is set to values stored in the square. Yet another object declaration, S, again, no parameter is provided. Yard is initially identical to square because we are saying that declare object yard and its initial value is square. And here S is created with default length and width equal to 0. Public members of an object can be accessed by writing the name of the object and then by writing the public member. Here area is a public method. On the room we are applying the method area. And by this code the value of the area of room will be calculated, and whatever calculated will be set as the value of the variable x. So this line assigns area equal to 12 multiplied by 10 because the parameters for the room are 12 and 10. This is the object declaration and creation of the object. So internal length and width for the object room is 12 and 10. So the area is calculated by using those values. The area is 120 and that value is assigned to x. In this line we have method putLength applied on object T. T was created by default values L and W as 0. So by this method, here 20 is provided as the argument. The value 20 is assigned as the length of the rectangle T. Or on the object T, we may apply the method getWidth. So this will return what is the value of the width of the object T. And that value is outputted here in this line by the cout statement. So it outputs current value of the width of T, which is 0. And in the next line, there is the cin statement. So this is for input. The value should be entered by the user. And then by the putLength, here argument is x, whatever entered by the user is assigned as the value of the length of the object T. Inputs x and assigns it to length of T. Constructors and other methods can be defined inline or outside of the class body. If a method is not defined inside the class declaration, that is, if not defined inline, it must be defined outside. This is the format for the outside definition of the methods. Here, first the return value type is written, and then the class name is written. Then we have double columns, and then function name and parameters are provided. For example, for the outside implementation of the getLength method for the rectangle class, and this line is same as the declaration of the getLength in the class declaration. The only difference is that here we have rectangle as the name of the class. And in the implementation, we are returning length of the object. This is access private data member length and returns that value. And here, this double columns makes function belong to class, so it can access private members. This is the outside implementation, and inside, while the class is declared, the methods can also be implemented. For example, if we are implementing inline the method getLength, here this is the line in the declaration of the class. Just after that, we open a curly parenthesis, and whatever the implementation here written here for the inline implementation, and the curly parenthesis is closed. So this part is exactly the same whatever written for the outside implementation. It may be implemented inside the class declaration. Now we are going to cover the topic alternative constructors. More than one constructor can be defined for a class. For example, consider the date class. In the private part, we have integer, month, day, and year. In the public part, we have two different constructors. Notice that both has the same name because they are constructor and their name is same as the name of the class. It is date. And in the first one, notice that we have three different parameters. All of them are integer. M has default value 1, and that value is going to be loaded month. The second one is D. Default value is 1, and it will be loaded today. And the last one has default value 2000, and that value is going to be loaded to year. The second one, the second constructor, has a different parameter. Notice that it is character pointer type that is corresponding to string, and that parameter has name dstr. These are commands. Note, two different constructors are defined. The compiler will select the appropriate constructor according to the call parameters during the object creation. And addition to constructors, we have only one method, which is print date. There is no input and there is no output, but when this is applied on a date object, this is going to be used to print date. So this is the end of the declaration of the date class. Now the methods will be defined externally. We are going to implement them. The first one, the first constructor, this is a constructor belonging to the class date, and these are the parameters. And here, after a column, it is written that month M. This means that whatever the value of the parameter M is going to be loaded to data member month. And the value of D is going to be loaded to data member day, and the value of Y is going to be loaded to the data member year. And this is equivalent to writing here in the curly parenthesis month assigned value M, and then day assigned value D and year assigned value Y. Instead of that, it can be written in this way. The second constructor has a string variable, dstr, and we will not cover the code here, but here some operations are needed to read string in the form of dd, y. This is corresponding to day, month, and year from input stream, and then converted to integer month, day, and year. This is the end of the second constructor. The print method is, again, it is belonging to the class date. The name of the method is print date. There is no input, there is no output. And here an array is declared. This is static character string array. The name of the array is months. Months has 13 elements starting from 0 up to 12, and the first one has a null string. The value is null string and it's corresponding to entry months 0. And then we have the value for the months 1. It has value January, and it goes in this way. The last one is month 12 is December. Because here we have 13 elements, month has entries from 0 to 12. And static means that once this array is created, after that, when the print date is called, that array is used. In the other case, if this was not static, the array months was going to be created for each call. And here there is the output statement, and whatever the month for the object, that entry of the array months is outputted here. And then there is a blank, and then comes the value of the day, and there is a comma after that, and the value of the year is sent to the output device. And this is end of the print date. Assume that the class date is contained in the file date.h. Then we are including that file in our code, and also we are including the functions from the library iostream.h. In this file, we have the function names. In the main part, day 1 is declared as a date object, and here we have 3 arguments which are integers, so the first constructor is called. The second one has no argument. Because of that, whatever written in the file, whichever is the first constructor, will be called by the default values. In our case, the first constructor, having integer parameters. And the last one, day 3, has an argument which is string. Here, these 2 characters are corresponding to the day, and these 2 are corresponding to the month, and these 4 is for the year. And suppose that this is the today's date. Then comes some cout statements. Cout, the Turkish Republic was founded on. Then there is a print date for the day 1. And then there is end line. Here notice that For the cout statement, first there is a string here, and after that there is a semicolon. This is a separator between the statements. And here, notice that on day 1, the print date function is called. And then continue, again there is a separator, continue with the cout statement, cout end line. So this will output this string, and then on the same line it will continue by the print date. The date will be outputted, and then on the same line it continues, and by this end line it will pass to the next line. And then we have another cout. The first day in the 21st century was on day 2, on this one. The print date is applied, the method print date is applied, and it continues with cout and end line. And then comes another output statement, cout. Today is, we assume that this is today's date, day 3, print date, and then cout end line. That's all for the main part. So at the output, we will see the Turkish Republic was founded on October 29th, 1923. And then the first day in the 21st century was, and then we will see January 1st, 2000. For the last one, for this cout, we will see today is September 27th, 2020 as the output.